Good afternoon. The Committee on General Government Operations, Appropriation, and Housing is now called to order. For the record, today is Thursday, July 2nd, and the time now is 3:14. Notices for this budget hearing was disseminated via email to all senators and all main media broadcasting outlets. First public notice was issued on Monday, June 22nd, and the second notice was issued on Thursday, June 30th. The committee will hear and accept testimony on Bill 282-35 LS, the Fiscal Year 2021 Appropriation Act, as requested by the Governor, relative to the Guam Veterans Affairs Fiscal Year 2021 budget request. Joining me for this budget hearing is Madam Vice Speaker Talina Nelson. I have Senator Pito Terlahi, the Oversight Chair for the Veterans Affairs. I have Senator Regine Bisco-Lee. I have Senator Mary Torres, Senator Kelly Mars Taitano, Senator Telo Taitigui, and Senator Therese Terlahi. The budget hearing shall be as follows. Those testifying on behalf of the department or agency will be recognized by myself and invited to the panel. I've already invited the panel members, Mr. Tim Uggan. Written testimony shall be submitted to the committee. Please provide my legislative staff with your written testimony for photocopying. Testimony may be read, and lengthy testimony should be summarized. Testimony shall be confined to the substance, which is we're discussing Budget 2021. We may ask a few questions on 2020, but it's specifically for Budget 2021. The individual will be allowed to present oral testimony, and you are asked to remain in the room for questions or for additional testimony, as may be desired by the members of the committee. Proper form and decorum shall be practiced by all present in the public hearing room for this proceedings. Individuals who fail to maintain proper form and decorum may be restricted from providing oral testimony and or may be asked to leave or be escorted and removed from the room. When you speak, please make sure that the microphone is on and that you speak into the microphone. Please state your name and title for the record. At this time, I ask the panel members from the Guam Veterans Affairs to rise and for our Sergeant at Arms to please swear them in. Thank you, Sergeant at Arms. I will now ask Mr. Tim Uggan, the now acting Veteran Administration representative, to please just state his name and his title and begin testimony in reference to his budget of the Veterans Affairs. Thank you.
Thank you, thank you, Mr. Chairman. Oversight Chair, Senator Terlahi, Senator Lee, Senator Taitigui, Senator Kelly Marsh, Senator Talina Nelson, Senator Torres, and Senator Terlahi. I'm here today. My name is Pierre Tim Uggan. I am the Acting Director for the Department of Veteran Affairs. As I sit here today, I'm honored to be representing all the veterans of Guam. And as all of you might be aware, that Guam is one of the highest per capita for military enlistments. As a result, we are also one of the highest per capita for veterans. In the short couple of days I've been in office at the Veterans Affairs, I've been able to meet with all the employees to better understand the challenges that they are experiencing. And as a retired 30-year veteran myself, I seek the support of this body and the veteran community of Guam to help improve the quality of life for all veterans on this island. Mr. Chairman, I sit here today and request and accept your proposed 2021 budget requested as is. And I'm here today to answer any questions or concerns that I may be able to answer in the 2 days that I have been in office. Thank you, sir.
Thank you, Mr. Uggan. Sir, Senator Pito Terlahi, do you have any questions of the administrator?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Thank you very much. Thank you, panel, for joining us on this wonderful long day. Thank you very much for sharing this wonderful moment with all of us. And I have at least 4 things that I wanted to inquire regarding the situations and some of the issues that have been brought up to my attention. The first thing is that I remembered when the Director of Veterans Affairs had mentioned about reservists being hired to kind of just accommodate the things that they need to do, especially, taking care of the maintenance in the cemeteries and all that. And I know that he had, it was confirmed to me that he does have the funding to carry on the reservists, at least 4 reservists for the Veterans Affairs. Is that still ongoing, or are you anticipating of hiring reservists? Because in order for the Veterans Affairs to hire these 4 reservists, I am prepared and I'm working on a bill to allow that. But I wanted to find out if you do have the funding for that 4 individuals, if you are to hire them.
Thank you, Senator. Can you just clarify when you say reservists, what entity are you referring to?
This is about the reservists where, you can hire reserve personnel for the agency to actually to augment some of the duties and responsibilities that is being charged to the Veterans Affairs Office.
Okay.
You might not be aware, but I know that Director Berdalio is aware of this.
Okay, yeah, you're absolutely right. I'm not aware of any reservist program that the previous director had the desire to implement, but I'll have you know that based on the staffing pattern and the vacancies that have not been filled, that's one of the priorities of that I have to fill the staffing, and then take a look at the operations based on the manpower that we have. I've been up to the cemetery. I've done my due diligence in talking with the employees up there. I've requested for DPW to do a full assessment of the facilities yesterday. I will have a report today. So that would help me better understand the situation at hand, and then I can get back to you on that, whether or not we'll need those 4 reservists.
Because earlier, they mentioned the cemetery over by almost Isagana. And
Yes.
that is under the Veterans Affairs for now.
Yes, I understand that.
However, they have asked me to introduce a bill to transfer that over to Parks and Rec because, am I saying this right? Parks and Rec or Veterans Affairs? Is that under the Veterans Affairs or Parks and Rec right now?
Presently, it's under DPR, Department of Public Parks and Rec.
Okay, so it's under Parks and Rec.
Yeah.
However, I was asked to initiate some kind of bill to transfer that cemetery over to the Veterans Affairs because the Veterans Affairs might be able to get federal funds to kind of just refurbish the cemetery itself. And I was checking on the rules, the federal rules, if or not the Veterans Affairs can get funding for that. And I found out, the director told me that there's no funding for that.
Actually, Senator, there is a funding source. It's the amount is a maximum of $45,000. I actually was perusing the veteran site today. We actually lost the opportunity to apply for it for this fiscal year, but it is on the list of things to work on in this fiscal year to apply for next year's, so that we can avail ourselves to that $45,000.
So you do have the funding for that cemetery and the
There
funding?
is an opportunity to use that money.
Okay.
Yes.
But you can use also for the main cemetery, the veteran cemetery.
For whichever operation that we need the money for, but unfortunately, we missed the opportunity for this fiscal year. We're going to have to reapply for next year.
Okay, let me just step back just a little bit on the 4 individuals that I'm talking about. Can you, Tim, can you get back to me on that one? If you do have the funding for those people, because I do need to initiate a bill for that one in order to make it legal to get those reservists.
Okay, with all due respect to Mr. Berdalio, it was something that he envisioned to get volunteers or reserves. He did desire that it was as his vision as our director at that time. But honestly, I didn't see anything in writing to move forward. it was something he desired, but I didn't see it, so I cannot really speak. I just know that as his assistant, I didn't see anything that materialized in writing even to the legislature. I didn't get a copy, but I do believe it was one of his desires, to get volunteers or reserves, because he expressed it with me. But that's all
I just
can
want to
do.
be clear because you cannot hire reservists under the rule unless we do a bill.
Okay.
Yeah, that's.
Senator, if I may suggest that maybe we can, after this, sometime within your schedule, we can sit down and discuss?
Yes,
Okay, thank you, sir.
for sure, Tim. Another question that I wanted to ask is, I understand that the Veterans Affairs is being anticipated to be housed at the old legislature building. And I think there's like 6 to 9 agencies, small agencies that is being proposed to be housed in that old legislative building. Do you know which agencies are those right now?
I have a inkling. I know that DICIT is there, Hagatnia Restoration, Department of Labor, the agency that Jermaine Alerta is in charge of. I think there's like 6. Sorry, I apologize. I don't know what agency he's in charge of. DICIT, yeah, okay. So, yeah, those agencies, I've actually walked the premise. I identified what was allocated for the Veterans Affairs. Unfortunately, we don't have a floor plan. I'm not sure when is the drop dead date for us to move in there. But next week, starting next week, I'm going to get with DPW and whoever I can get with to draw up the floor plan. I have an idea of what the floor plan should look like based on, since Veterans Affairs is a customer service-oriented agency, I want to ensure that we provide that service to all the veterans of Guam.
So Tim, the Veterans Affairs office is going to be housed in that building.
Yes, sir.
That's one of them, right? That's out of 6 or 9.
Correct.
Yeah, something like that. Okay. Another thing that I wanted to ask you, Tim, is how I understand that you hired one person to do the processing for the VA benefits, and that's one person. I think it's someone that used to do that type of work, processing the medical and the resources that is needed by the veterans, the handicapped, the disabled, the physically challenged veterans. And I had recommended, because I know that the work on something like that is overwhelming for just one person. And I did recommend Colonel Casimiro, who used to work for the Veterans Affairs, who was doing those processing. And I would think that maybe the better person, not the better person, but another person to assist the one that is doing that work right now is, if we can consider Colonel Casimiro, because he is certified to do that. And there's only 3 individuals on Guam that are certified, 3 or 4 individuals that are certified to do something like that under the federal guidelines. So I need to talk to the director regarding that, because actually I talked to Colonel Casimiro and he's willing to do that, because we need to hire a person that is certified to do something like that. And I know that he hasn't been called in or being interviewed or being talked to by the director, and I would really like to recommend Colonel Casimiro, because he has worked for the longest time for that office, and he's been so progressive in the things that he has to do for the veterans. Another thing, Jim, that I wanted to bring up, Jim, whatever, it's you, right, that I'm talking to? Thank you very much. Anyway,
And if Tim, if you can, Mr. Uggan, make sure that your associate there would identify yourself and your position, so everybody will know, because I didn't hear that. Can I get your name and your position?
Good afternoon, Senators. My name is Genevieve Clolubag. I'm the administrative assistant at the Guam Veterans Affairs Office.
Okay, thank you. Continue on there, Senator Terlai.
Okay, Tim, are you part of the coordinating of the activity that's going to happen this Saturday regarding the veterans?
No, I'm not part of it.
Okay, well, something is happening for the veterans this coming Saturday.
So
Over-
actually,
over
Senator,
in-
I just spoke to the president of the Commission for the Veterans, Mr. Brian Miranda.
Uh-huh.
And I also spoke to Mr. Johnny Atulai Taituno outside and Tom Devlin. We discussed the event that's happening on Saturday. This is my first time I'm aware of it. I did offer our assistance, and I am working on things to contribute to that event this Saturday.
Thank you, Tim. Thank
Yeah.
you very much. One last thing that I wanted to put out, and I think my train of thought just kind of just got away from me, but no, that's okay, Tim. Tim, I'll ask the chairman to give me the opportunity because when you get to be my age, sometimes you forget things. So I'm sorry. I'm very sorry. I apologize, but it will come back to me.
All right.
Thank you,
Senator Terlai. I have a few questions. Mr. Hogan, how many veterans with the employees received any COVID federal assistance or has the Veterans Affairs received any COVID federal assistance for FY2020? Was there anything in the CARES funds provided to the VA office, such as funds for your PPE, sanitation? Did you receive any funds?
No, we haven't.
All right.
We haven't.
Okay.
Okay.
Have you put in a request, or are you able to cover it with your budget?
Because it's reimbursable.
Right.
I believe it's reimbursable, and I have processed a requisition.
Okay.
So it's less than 1,000. So, but it does say I believe that it's reimbursable.
All right.
It's something that
Okay.
can be claimed or can be paid.
Okay. Does the Veterans Affairs have any employees that are due retro payment as a result of the Competitive Wage Act? Does any of the employees have any pay due?
Yes.
Okay. And are you processing that within your budget to make sure that your employees are whole?
Yes.
Yes.
I'm
Okay.
processing it. Yeah, I'm actually processing it now.
Okay.
Yeah.
And when you finally get to the final numbers, if you could please provide my office a copy of that, just so we know what the impact is on your budget, because for the employees you didn't hire for the fiscal year, you may be able to cover it within your budget and it doesn't impact your budget.
Mr. Chairman, if I may, there's a total of 4 employees that are affected by that, and they're no longer employed, but the total amount is 10,000 plus.
All right? So
Total.
your budget can cover it.
Yes, sir.
All right? I'd like to also recognize that we're also joined by our speaker, Speaker Tina Munoz-Barnes. Moving along, how many caseworkers have you hired any caseworkers? Because on the last budget, or this current budget, we gave you a miscellaneous appropriation of $115,000 for hiring and training of caseworkers, which are the VSOs, your Veteran Service Officers. And I think that's what Senator Terlai was referring to, Lieutenant Colonel Felix Casimiro.
Yes, first of all, I want to we're very thankful for that public law. Thank you. Yes, we hired Mr. Ron. Ron was hired on January of this year under that public law. Under that, he was hired, and we sent him to training on February to get recertified as a veteran service officer.
Recertified,
Yeah.
right? Okay. Because I know there's a recertification requirement.
Yeah, you got it.
And he's full-time, right?
Yes.
Yes.
So how many other positions have you not been able to fill?
Well,
Go ahead.
actually, we're really using the money, on a timely manner. In fact, next week, there's an interview for 2 more veteran service representatives.
All right,
I'm
okay.
scheduling the interview for next week.
So to answer your question, Mr. Chairman, there's a total of 4 vacancies that we're going to fill within, before the fiscal year ends.
Yeah.
All right.
That includes the 2 VSRs that are upcoming interviews next week.
All right, thank you. You have in your budget, there's $3,700 for travel. Can we get an explanation? Is that for the training and stuff like that? Is that what the $3,700 in travel for? Or is there conferences that the Veterans Affairs administrator would need to attend? What is the $3,700 for? Because that's really one trip.
It's 3,700.
Yeah, let me answer that. So, Mr. Chairman, you and I know that 3,700 is only for one person, one trip, probably a short trip. But to my knowledge right now, just based on my initial assessment, that we will require a little bit of movement of the budget to accommodate any training that might be needed in the future for the 2 hires of the VSRs who will have to go get certified. And in my mind, one of the things that the director or the administrator of the Department of Veterans Affairs would need to go and probably visit Hawaii and understand and learn best practices and see what we can do to improve our own functionality here on Guam, and so that we can be more efficient and operate accordingly to the budget.
All right, thank you, sir.
Yeah.
I'd like to ask Madam Speaker if you have any question, and you'll be followed by the Vice Speaker, Senator Talina Nelson. Madam Speaker.
Jesus Masi, Mr. Chair, thank you for giving me the opportunity again to Tim, and thank you for your presentation this afternoon. There were a couple of questions that were already answered for me, but I know that as I look at the reductions in operation from 59,702 to 48,446, and then the full 26,000 that was given in 2020 for capital outlay, that $26,000 was taken, will not be afforded for 2021. You did mention something, and maybe I just wanted to get a clarification. You are presently in the Veterans Building in the one in Ascent?
Yes.
And what will happen to that building when you move from Ascent to the old Hessler Building?
It's my understanding, Mr. Speaker, that the building belongs to GURA. So once we vacate, it's up to the director at GURA to, or the administration to work out with GURA.
Okay.
I'm not sure what the future plans are for that building.
Okay, so it doesn't, it's a GURA building?
Yes.
Yeah. I know there was many issues there about that. And then just a confirmation, because as I look at the proposal of what was provided and the additional resources to hire the VSRs, a clarification from the unclassified and the classified positions for you're requesting for additional employees, or are you going to get a total? You have 7 total employees right now? What do you
10.
have?
10.
Oh, so you have 10
Yeah.
presently,
Yeah.
Yeah.
and then you're looking at hiring an additional 4.
Total. Total
So-
4. 4 more. It's allocated already in the budget.
Right, so with the total, with the allocation of the additional 4, does that mean you would have 14 employees?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, and any of those employees coming out of any federal grant?
No.
And it would be all from the general fund?
The
Yes.
general fund.
So, okay,
Currently, there is no federal funding subsidizing any of the employees in Veterans Affairs locally.
are you guys anticipating to ask for any federal grants?
As mentioned before, in the last 2 days of inheritance here, I expeditiously perused the website this morning. I had some of my staff take a look at what opportunities do we have. Unfortunately, one of the grants expired yesterday, but we will aggressively look for opportunities in this fiscal year to take advantage of whatever, may it be CIP improvements or any other funding that will allow us to hire any more staff,
Okay. Thank
which
you.
also includes an opportunity for us to purchase equipment.
What kind of equipment are we talking about?
So currently, we, based on the reports that I reviewed, we rent under contractual funding backhoe services. In my mind, long-term, we should be able to be self-sufficient and have our own employees operate the backhoe.
Okay, so is there any inventory of equipment that you have right now that will, that fulfills the mandate that you need to do within the office?
Yes, we actually have the inventory report for this fiscal year.
So you're just
and I can
asking for
provide
more
that information.
equipment to assist?
Yeah.
Okay, moving on to the cemetery, Mr. Chair, if I may just ask, I know that in 2020, you were allocated a 168,280, and then the request is that there's a $3,000 increase for 2021. What exactly will those funds be utilized for at the cemetery?
Under what line item again?
The cemetery?
Cemetery?
The personnel?
Yeah, so in the staffing pattern for the personnel over at the cemetery, there's one vacancy, and that should incorporate that under that funding source.
Okay, and then I noted that when Senator Terlahi was asking, I wanted to know about the transfer. So who is handling the cemeteries, the Parks and Recs, or is it the veterans?
Okay, presently, from my understanding, it's actually, right now, it's DPR. Parks and Recs is handling it. That's what I...
So is there a request to,
Okay, Mr. Speaker, I'm not familiar with the arrangement or the MOU or the transfer of the facility itself, but I can get back to you once I find out what all the details are, and I can provide you a solution or answers for that.
Get that information.
okay, thank you very much. And Mr. Chair, I think that's all the questions I have, and if you allow me, I have one more question, Mr. Chair, for later on, and if you can afford me the opportunity to come back, I just want to ask for a verification, but I want to make sure my numbers are right, so if you can allow me to come back for just one more question later.
All right,
Thank you.
all right. And I'd like my colleagues to please refer to the summary of the division, which is the Veterans Affairs. As you look at the amount, they identify the columns, and I think the variation between 20 and 21 on the cemetery is 3,924. If you take a look at the number of employees across the board, a lot of it has to do with benefits. It's not really the employee salary, because I don't think there's anybody that's working for one whole year, 3,924. So we got to hypothetically just understand that how the funds is distributed across the board for 4 people. Now I'd ask Madam Vice Speaker, Senator Talina Nelson, and you'll be followed by Senator Regine Bescoli. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Hafaday, the new Veteran Affairs Director, Mr. Uggan. Thank you for stepping up to the plate. And I'm sorry, forgive me. Can you repeat your name, ma'am? I didn't catch it early on.
Good afternoon, Senator. My name is Genevieve Klolubak. I'm the Administrative Assistant at Guam Veterans Affairs.
Okay, thank you, Ms. Genevieve. I've seen you often, but we see so many people, so thank you so much. Forgive me. Okay, so what has the Veteran Affairs accomplished since 2019 or 2020? What has the Veteran Affairs accomplished since 2019 to 2020?
2019, okay. Okay, I know that most of the employees, first of all, I want to inform all the senators that I got hired on 2017. Okay, when I got hired, I know that there was only 2 or 3 classified employees. You notice that on the list, there's now 6, and then I believe by the end of the fiscal year, we're going to have 8 classified. And we also purchased a lot of equipment. We got a new truck. We did, under Joe San Agustin, who was the former director, we were all able to actively do the outreach and which means we actually used a lot of the funding that was not used to actually get out to the communities and do the village outreach throughout the island of Guam. Also, we were able to purchase even a Xerox machine. We didn't have a Xerox machine when I was there, so I was able to get the contract for that, and we were able to hire another veteran service rep. We were also able to hire 2 additional Guam Veteran Cemetery worker, where they're all now classified employees. And again, we continue to work with Flame Tree to get the Veterans Registry program going. And honestly, I can honestly say that it's 190% completed, or not, actually it's 100%. The only thing we need to do right now is make sure it's updated on a monthly basis, which right now Mr. Eddie Rages from Flame Tree, we are meeting with him to ensure that it's, that they're getting the datas to keep it updated. So that's one of the major things that was done between the 2018 to date, was the Guam Veterans Registry Program.
Thank you.
Okay.
So thank you for clarifying that there's 8 classified employees, because in this document that we have, we see 9 classified employees. And then there was discussion that there was 10 classified employees, so.
They're actually usually, before a government of Guam employees become a classified, they have to pass the 6 months probationary period.
Okay.
So, yes, we have 6 classified at this time, and 2 are under probationary period, and they're doing a good job. So I can actually say maybe 8 classified employees.
Okay,
Yeah.
Roger, thank you. And so we are anticipating to hire more VSRs, and that would be 4
Yes, we're
classified employee
scheduling- yes.
VSRs?
Interview is set for next week, and those are 2 vacancies for a classified VSR. Yeah. Yes.
2 vacancies or 4?
It's 2 vacant position. Actually, it's 1 interview, and
Okay.
there's a possibility to hire 2.
Okay,
So
one
total VSRs are 4,
yeah,
2 vacant.
Yeah.
And actually, of the 3 VSRs that are currently there, 2 are classified, 1 is LTA.
Okay.
So hopefully, the one that's LTA will be part of the interview process.
Classified?
Yes, and then we can classify that person, and then we'll add a new person, which will amount collectively to 4 VSRs
Or
to improve our
classified, yeah.
customer service.
so then overall, if you have 8 classified employees now, and if you get those 4 VSRs, you'll have 12 classified employees, and then you still want to have 3 unclassified employees for the next fiscal year.
That is correct.
Yes.
Thank you. So it'll be 15 then.
Yeah.
Okay. In the documentation that I have in front of me, they listed the FY 2019 expenditures and encumbrances, and that was at $452,000. The FY 2020 authorized level was at $716,000. And the $115,000 we appropriated last year, were you able to maximize that money for the hiring of VSRs?
We actually, we exhaust the funding. In fact, I had to work with BBMR because we went a little bit over our budget. So when it comes to using the budget, we have no problem spending it.
Okay.
We used it
Properly.
In fact, they had to stop us. I got a call from the analyst that, you need to do some reprogram to, to fill out the negatives because it's toward the end of the fiscal year and there's negatives. So when it comes to spending the money, we didn't have problem with that. In fact, they had to call us to stop. Again, that's also part of my job. I want to ensure that we make a use of the funding that's appropriate from the legislature or authorized from the legislature. So I work with the analyst and sometimes I do transfer funds to, if it's necessary, and, to make sure that we get the supplies that we need and the materials. And, working, they never tell us that we have money. So we kind of have to do a projection to prove it to them that hey, you said you don't have money, but when I do the projection, and I believe like this year we have a lot of money. But again, it's also, I need to inform, it's all under the direction of the director.
Okay.
If I said I want to hire a PC, I think we should hire a PC, but then the director says, no, not at this time, I need to do this, then, it's really,
Not this director.
yeah,
but-
it's different with every director.
Okay.
I can say, but it's really the vision of the director that I'm supposed to follow.
Okay.
Yeah.
And you mentioned the highest per capita for veterans. Guam has the highest per capita for veterans and the Veterans Registry. What is the current count of veterans that have been registered and an approximate count of veterans that have not registered?
Well, based on Director Joe San Agustin's number in 2017, the number was 25,000 for Guam.
Registered? Officially registered?
I'm not
Mr.
sure what his source was, but I had a meeting this morning with Flame Tree so that we can rectify the total number of registered veterans on Guam, compared with the number that we are processing. The one challenge with that is that with the current VSRs, their data collection is not central deposited. So one of the things that I discussed with the Flame Tree organization this morning is that if they can assist us and provide me a proposal so that we can have a central database depository, so we can have an accurate number for reporting purposes, not just for local and the legislature, but federally, so we can hopefully come up with more funding to support the operation. Understanding that once we get all the staffing filled on these vacancies, that we'll be able to increase our outreach to support the registry campaign, and then we will have a more accurate number hopefully by the end of the next fiscal year.
And what will be done with this data?
Say that again?
What will be done for this data?
What
When
will
you
be done?
acquire the data, what are some of the target goals?
Say that again, ma'am?
When you acquire the data,
Yes.
what are some of the target goals? What are some of the goals that you'd like to do with the data?
So understanding, once you compile all the data, right? So this is based on how successful the organization, the agency is doing in regards to providing the services that the veterans on Guam are requiring. One thing that we can look statistically is we can break it down into categories on what are the ailments and disabilities that Guam has with its veterans. We can also use this money to justify hopefully, in the future, an increase in budget to help us with the operation, with the number and the volume to assist all these veterans. And in my mind, just based on my experience at Homeland in dealing with the federal government and grant applications, if we provide a number, if we quantify and then justify our request, then the chances of us getting approved for a grant are higher. So that is the purpose for me.
Yeah.
I would use that data for, and it's also historical data as something that we can use as a baseline for us to improve our operations and benefit the veterans of Guam.
What type of grant applications will be available with the data collected?
So currently, as I mentioned earlier, that I frantically perused the website, and unfortunately, I didn't have enough time. There are certain programs that we can avail ourselves to, but some of these are partial. There are grants available for homeless vets. There is grants for per diem for the homeless vets. There's also some medical benefit grants. There's other federal entities, for example, DOI, that we can request for some funding, but I have not had the opportunity to see what types of programs that are available with other federal entities that we can qualify for and avail ourselves to that opportunity. But I'll have you know, Senator, that I am aggressively looking at additional funding and not relying on the sole source of the general fund.
Okay, thank you. And I appreciate the amount of effort that you have taken to research the history of the Veteran Affairs Office, and even though you just got in. And so, please don't feel like I'm,
Oh, no.
overwhelming you, but you're in the military, so you know how to drink through a fire hose. So
Yes, ma'am, I understand,
you-
100%.
You're doing a great job
Hoo-ah.
so far. So thank you. The reason why is I'm very concerned. I've had several vet nonprofit organizations visit my office, and one of their concerns was last year they had a Mr. Wilkie come to Guam, and there was discussion about opening up a veterans hospital, specifically for the veterans. And I sent one of my team members over to the Veterans Commission meeting, and for some reason they feel that I have not done anything for the veterans when we took money from the judiciary last year to give to the Veterans Office so you can get more VSRs. And so perhaps we're not doing enough. So what is the requirement for us to sincerely get some kind of treatment center or veterans hospital that was in discussion last year? What do we have to prove that we need it? If we are the highest per capita within all the United States, what do we have to prove on Guam that we need a veterans hospital and not a CPOC? And our veterans are really getting the short end of the stick.
Thank you, Senator. I am totally in line with that. I will get to the bottom of what requirements specifically are they looking at for us to establish and petition to get a VA hospital here. That is one of my end game goals that I'm aspiring to push up the ladder of the agenda for the priorities for the Veterans Office here on Guam. I know that the veterans on Guam desperately need a VA hospital here. Instead of sending 100% of our people, or let me take that back, 90% of our people over to Hawaii to Tripler Hospital and stay there for 2 years away from their families. I am totally 100% supportive of getting a VA hospital here, and I look to you for any notes or anything that was taken away from Secretary, I forget his name, I'm sorry, but the gentleman that was here representing the Veterans Office, and any other information that we can get so we can build our case to get that VA hospital here in Guam. I'll have you know that I will spend every moment of my time while I'm at the VA office here focused on that end goal of getting a VA hospital here on Guam.
Thank you. I also want to, because, thank you for sharing that our veterans do have to leave off island for long amounts of times, for even years, to get treatment. And so this is time away from their family, time away from the stability that they need, and the support group that they need. And basically, they're all alone. And so I've had friends who are veterans who got sent to Tripler, and he went homeless for 3 months because he was literally living in the parks. He's infantry, so of course you have the PTSD from multiple combat missions. And so he was just waiting there for months to be seen because they did not have the financial resources. And of course he told me this story a year later after it happened. And, I feel for him. And then I have a family member who lost his life because of PTSD. And so what are we doing for veterans who are suffering from PTSD? And also for the families. I mean, it's very difficult to know how to support them. There are some programs out there that, come up every now and then that say, okay, here's a blue ribbon or, some kind of retreat getaway. But how do we have a continuum care for those suffering with PTSD to include their families?
Thank you, Senator. I just have to also share that I am experiencing a personal experience regarding medical disability. My oldest son, just medically retired from the United States Air Force after 11 years. He's 90% disabled. I am currently caring for my sister, who is a Navy veteran. She has stage 4 cancer. She's living in my house, and she's also a veteran. I know firsthand that this needs to be addressed immediately. Although I do not know at this present day what the actual steps are to achieve all of that, I have not had the chance to get with the CBOC and what benefits that they do offer, other than what I see at my own home with my sister. Excuse me. But I'll have you know that I will aggressively look into that, ma'am. Sorry.
No, thank you. Thank you for that. And we have different nonprofit organizations in the Veterans Commission. And last year, there was a push to fund nonprofit organizations under the TAF. You know, those organizations or businesses that supported cultural heritage. And so I'm thinking, where do we have some kind of connect or meet to also help the nonprofit organizations in the Veterans Commission receive some kind of funding assistance to implement their programs to help those that are that are going through the same circumstances as homelessness, PTSD, mental, behavioral health issues. How do we make that connection for them? We figured it out for the cultural nonprofits with the TAF. We even gave the University of Guam Press an appropriation, I believe, and other NPOs that promote our culture. So how do we do that for our NPOs at the Veterans Commission?
Okay, I'm actually glad that you brought that up. I have not yet met with the nonprofit organizations in regards to all the VFWs and all the entities that support the veterans. But I do know, based on the past 2 days of perusing the VA site and looking for grant opportunities, that they do have access and the opportunity to have the same type of capability through the grant funding. I need to just look into the details and get into the weeds of each grant on what they offer and see if we qualify. And I plan and I intend to meet with these organizations to find out what requirements or what requests and challenges that they have that we will be able to support via these grant opportunities. And then we'll go ahead and apply for the grant for them. Amazingly, there are a lot of programs that are available for the veterans in regards to nonprofit organizations. With that being said, it is one of my priorities to work with them, the NGOs and the nonprofits, to avail themselves to these programs.
Okay. Thank you, Tim, and thank
welcome,
you, Genevieve. I must say that in my short time here, the conversation has evolved from 10 years ago to my short time here. The main focus was the Veterans Cemetery, right, and fixing it. But I'm glad that we are evolving the Veteran Affairs Office to really target the issues that impact our veterans that are alive and impact their families. And so, Tim, I believe in you. I believe in the work that you can do for the veterans. You have vision, and you're a resourceful man. And so please move the Veteran Affairs Office forward to focus more on the cases for our disabled vets, to focus more on assisting the nonprofit organizations to get a VA hospital here, and whatever legislation you need, I will 100% support it to help the veterans move forward. Really, they've been neglected for so long, and just last budget, we moved that to get them more VSRs to handle the case management, and Ms. Genevieve, thank you for making sure that that happened. And we need more. I'd even like to see if we can fund the NPOs their own VSR so that they can go off island and do the training, and then they can start performing this kind of casework. And so if that's even possible, let's do that, because they feel very neglected. I think we don't talk about it enough, and we have not done enough for them. And so I'd like to see us move forward with that, with you leading at the helm, Tim, and also you, Ms. Genevieve. So thank you so much. I believe in you. Please, please make something happen in the short time that you have, okay? In the short time we all have.
Thank you, Vice Speaker. I'm going to do my best and my due diligence to take care of all the veterans on Guam. And on behalf of the Leon Guerrero Tenorio administration, I know this is one of their priorities, so I am honored that they placed me here to give my best effort and my right foot forward and take care of the troops.
All right.
Thank you.
Roger. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you, Madam Vice. And Tim, just to bring a little clarification, the last San Augustine that was there, his name is Jose. I'm the only Joe. He's Jose, okay? He calls himself Joe, but I'm the only one.
Okay. For clarification, Mr. Chairman, my name is Tim.
There you go, Mr. Tim. Senator Lee, and followed by Senator Mary Torres. Senator Lee.
Sudzusmasi, Mr. Chair. I'm aware of another Joe San Augustine. I think he just has a different initial, maybe a T. Oh, a Joseph T. Okay. Mr. Uggan, thank you very much for stepping up to the plate and for stepping into this role. You said you've only been here for 2 days, so I really applaud those efforts and thank you for your service as well. Ms. Genevieve, thank you for being there to assist and for continuing your leadership for the Office of Veterans Affairs. Tim, you mentioned a website that you were able to put together. Can you just announce that for the listening audience and so we can all maybe hop on?
It's actually the VA main website, and there's also drop-down windows. For example, there's the Veterans Affairs Construction State Home Facilities, which addresses
Oh, so if I go to va.gov and then to the state guide, I have Guam Benefits Office, I have VA CBOC, and then the Vet Center in Mighty.
I'm sorry, Senator. The site that I was referencing in regards to the grants is the actual U.S. Department of Veterans Affairs.
Right,
For the grant,
va.gov.
yeah, for the grant opportunities, and I have a list here. Maybe a good
But
thing.
does the Office of Veterans Affairs have a website?
Yes, we have the local, the gvao.guam.gov, that, it's everything. We have also the Find Your Loved Ones, that was the burial project
Right.
that was 100% completed.
So the vao.guam.gov, I'm having trouble finding that site because that's typically what I would go
It's
under.
also linked. If you go to gvao.guam.gov, there's a link to the burials to find it's in the link. It's in the website. So
Okay,
all you need to do is
I'll
just
try
go to,
again.
yeah.
Senator, if I may. So, as I mentioned earlier, we sat down with Flame Tree this morning and we covered the website and the central data collection services. So I'm not familiar with the local website, but in my mind, I believe that our website should be up and running and also have links to the federal government VA so that these nonprofits that are here on Guam can also avail themselves and peruse the sites for grant opportunities.
Great.
I will note that down and I'll request to have that inputted on our website.
And if you need additional information for the website, our office has actually compiled a listing of all of the existing veterans organizations here on Guam, as well as their contact information, their current leadership. And so feel free to connect with me. I can help you to make sure that that's updated and also out there for our community. So thanks in advance for that. I want to thank the Vice Speaker for mentioning the VA hospital and the discussion that we had with Secretary Wilkie while he was here on Guam, and don't want to drop the ball on that, so thanks in advance for continuing the momentum there. In addition, I was able to make a trip out to DC last year, and I spent about a day and a half at the VA. So I met with a bunch of leaders at the Department of Veterans Affairs, specifically the Center for Minority Veterans. And there are a number of resources that we can tap into there. And they're really excited about being able to service veterans with Asia Pacific Islander descent, which is many of our local veterans. So certainly excited to be able to connect you with some of the people there that want to do good things for Guam. I did look in your budget. You're proposing to decrease contractual services by about $16,000. Maybe Ms. Genevieve, if you could help. I'm not sure if Mr. Uggan, you're aware, but I just wanted to know what services you're eliminating through this spending cut and what services are you proposing maybe to handle in-house. You had mentioned that you're bringing in additional warm bodies, so maybe that's the shift. I just wasn't sure, so I wanted to give you an opportunity to explain.
Okay, well, because we have total of 8 classified employees before the end of the fiscal year. It may be 12. It all depends how fast the recruitment and the interview process. There is, because of that major changes in personnel costs, I really do believe that maybe that's also one of the reasons most of the funding now is going to take care of the salaries and the benefits.
Right. So you mentioned that you're planning on having interviews for 2 additional caseworkers next week?
Yeah, and I'm also hearing that there will be another one next month.
Okay.
There's a possibility of, it's just,
So I'm looking at 12 positions. Are these limited term appointments or are they full-time employees?
all the positions are going to be a full-time classified employees. At least that's what that's what it's the purpose of the personal action that I processed.
So
the
everybody
DG1.
that is currently employed with the Office of Veterans Affairs is a classified employee?
Right now, again, there's 8 classified employees, and there's only 2. It's only Jervis and Ron right now that are limited terms. Yes.
So why would we hire additional personnel when we have those 2 limited term folks? Would it be possible to transition those people into full-time?
Well, Jervis, Ron is actually a veteran service rep.
Right.
And Jervis, they have different titles. I
I
just want to
see.
get that clear. Yes, we have that envisioned to get everybody classified, but again, we have to comply with DOA rules and regulations when it comes to, when it comes to personnel recruitment.
Right.
Yes, I can just say, hey, why don't we just do this? But that's not how it goes. We have to go through DOA, and there's a process that we have to comply with. So
That's
I do
helpful
believe-
for us to understand. Thank you very much. I know that I think the Vice Speaker had alluded to the Veterans Cemetery really being a source of our collective, I think, frustration and disappointment, frankly, in the past. So I just wanted to ask about the current, what you view as the current status of the Veterans Cemetery and how this proposed budget kind of contemplates the maintenance of that facility. When I think of a veteran cemetery, I think about Arlington, and it's just impeccable, and that's how our veteran cemetery should be here on Guam. And so I want to make sure that we are providing the resources to your office to make sure that we're at that level and to be able to give our service members that final respect.
Thank you, Senator. So, what is today? Thursday. So Tuesday, I did my site visit up at the cemetery, and I spoke to the employees that are up there, and they presented me with the challenges and the CIP projects that need to be implemented. One of the things that has been, for lack of a better word, neglected up there is the chapel. So the chapel and the facility that is currently down there that's being used for the cemetery maintenance folks. So just based on my initial assessment, I requested for DPW to go down there and do a cost estimate on the repairs that need to be done for the chapel and for the facility. So one thing about the building down there outside of the chapel is that there's only one entrance and exit. So I identified a section there with windows that is currently damaged at the bottom that we can easily convert into an exit door, to where once we do that, then we will be able to accommodate the grieving families and have a holding area for them outside of COVID or even during COVID. But this is an opportunity for us to take care of the families that are grieving. And this is an area where they can set up the food and not have to leave if that's what they choose to do, or in the event that it's raining or there's inclement weather, that there's a place for them to all be present at. That's one of the things that is on the top of my list in regards to CIP improvements. There's also the crypts. To my understanding, right now the number that we got, I think there's like 70 left. And I spoke to the guys, and what we have to do, there's a section of the crypts that are failing right now. I don't know what the previous master plan or contingency was, but that's one of the projects that we will have to focus in on, and probably it's going to take some time to come up with the plans. But I believe that come next fiscal year that we're going to have some construction projects up at the PD cemetery.
Sounds good. Thank you, Tim. You
You're welcome.
mentioned the chapel and you mentioned the equipment. So I just wanted to, I think, if memory serves correctly, we had several break-ins with some of the maintenance sheds and the equipment being stolen. So one of the ways that the previous directors had kind of tried to protect our equipment and our resources was by having that one entry point in and out. But if you're able to figure out a different way, then we're all for it, as long as we're able to secure those items and make sure that that's not a issue of theft isn't a problem in the future. But you had mentioned the chapel, and I just, I've heard from constituents that the EO on social distancing isn't necessarily being followed there. And I'm just concerned because many of our veterans are in that high-risk category. So I just want to urge you and your team to help us out and make sure that we're trying to keep everybody safe down there. And I really appreciate that. The Oversight Chair had mentioned the move for the Veterans Affairs Office to the Hessler Building. And so I just kind of wanted to get an idea of the timeline for that.
Okay, So Tuesday, was it Tuesday or Monday this past week, I had the opportunity to walk the grounds. I'm not sure when is the drop dead date for us to actually move in there. Hopefully it's not September 30th, and that we have a little bit more allotted time. The only reason why I'm saying that, Senator, is that I have yet to see the actual floor plan. I do have an idea based on our service-oriented agency on what the actual most efficient way for us to accommodate these veterans as they walk into the building. And I would hope that I will be given the opportunity to do that within hopefully the next 90 days and have that ready available.
Thank you. Yeah, absolutely. My concern is that you're having an efficient space, but also a very accessible space. I know that entire building is all one level, so that's really good news for veterans that are having issues coming in and out. Do you have any indication as to when a permanent director for this office will be named? I ask that because if the intention is to keep you, Mr. Ugin, through the next fiscal year, then that could have an impact on the agency's budget. I just want to make sure. And if that hasn't been contemplated yet, that's fine. I just wanted to put it out there.
Thank you, Senator.
Sorry. So do we have an indication as to when?
No, ma'am. As of right now, I'm there indefinite.
Okay, thank you very much. And again, Mr. Again, I really appreciate you stepping up to the plate. I understand that this is very personal for you as an individual, as a family member, as a caregiver. And so I'm just really looking forward to you taking that passion and energy and using it to really push for our veterans who are in need. And also our family members who are there to provide support, and anything that we can do from this side of the aisle, on this branch, we certainly want to support you in your efforts and and I look forward to working with you in this position. Sidus Masi, and thank you, Ms. Genevieve. Next up, Senator Mary Camacho Torres, if you have any questions.
Thank you. Tim, welcome aboard, and the best of luck to you. 2 days into the job and presenting the budget is a tall order, but you're doing quite well. Ms. Genevieve, you as well. I just had a question. There's a lot of discussion about the registry, and I just want to ask, within the Veterans Affairs Office, who drives the establishment and maintenance of that veteran registry? Is there a specific employee, or who's the custodian of that? Who's the driver behind that?
Okay. Right now, I'm kind of like overseeing it right now. There is, we do have a CSEP. It's one of the CSEP trainee that we've trained to keep up to enter the data into our database. But again, I really do feel too that we need a permanent classified employee to be a consistently there to ensure that all the data are inputted. One of the problems that we're having is that we get a CSEP and it doesn't last. They may work for a year and then they transfer to another department and then it gets slacked off. And then we wait for a couple of months, so I did mention it to my director that we need to get at least another permanent, 2 classified admin aide or maybe a clerk, or to, maintain this registry consistently,
I agree
and
with
that's
you.
also one of the things I did address during this fiscal year.
The concept of a custodian, I think, is very critical. I mean, who's responsible for making sure, because that, I believe, Mr. Agustin, is really the heart and soul of the, being able to avail of more monies. We've talked year in and year out about the threshold that while we're the highest per capita, our registry doesn't reflect that. So, that it makes sense that that should be the drive.
So if I may, Senator, as I mentioned that I spoke to the Flame Tree this morning,
Yeah,
right?
I was going to ask
yeah.
you also to clarify, what is that relationship? And because I believe they're an NGO, right? Is what they are?
Yes, they're a nonprofit, yes.
Yes.
Disabled veteran owned, right? So, so my conversation with them this morning was to better understand what their services were with the Veterans Association and where are we at with the project and how are we, where are we at with the database and what is our agreement and what are all the details that entail that, right? Because in the end, we want to have a central depository for the data collection for the registry, not just for the benefits, but also for the cemetery and all of that comes with it. So I am in total agreement with you that we need to have one employee dedicated to this registry program with Flame Tree. In the staffing pattern, I know that we have one that we mentioned that is an LTA outside of the VSR. So that person, in my mind, who has IT background and skills, if we can convert him into an IT specialist or even a planner and maintain the budget level, then we would have that person be the owner of this program and maintain it. So. And you are absolutely right in saying that this is probably the impetus of the entire organization and it will help move us forward by ensuring that this data collection is ongoing and is accurate and that we are using it to provide the services to the veterans.
And thank you for that. And just the whole idea behind the Veterans Affairs is to give back what was sacrificed on all of our behalfs. And so my sympathies go out to you and your challenges, and also my sympathy and my consideration goes out to the Veterans Affairs. One thing that I'm always struck with, I'm the daughter of Carlos Camacho, the governor who went to Vietnam to visit with the troops. And it's been now 50 years, right, since that. But it's amazing how consideration and true regard for a service member permeates over time and decades, and the gratitude that I still feel from those Vietnam vets for my father, caring about them is really what should drive all of us. I mean, just that very appreciation for someone appreciating your sacrifice. And you know, it's something that I think it's so basic, but it's so pivotal. And you know, with that, I hope that we can support you in determining who that custodian of that registry would be, and perhaps it's the director. You know, maybe the director figuratively is the custodian of records, and however he designates that. But I think until we establish who owns it, you know, then we really can't hold anyone accountable for, you know, it not being driven as hard as it can be. So I just wanted to make that comment. Not that I don't support you, I certainly do.
Okay, thank you, Senator. I just want you to know that I will accept the ownership of that at this time
That's
until
fantastic.
I can designate
Thank
somebody
you,
to
Mr.
take
Uggan.
over.
Thank you. Sus Masi.
Hoorah. Senator Tello, do you have any questions? And you're followed by Senator Therese Terlai.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I'm pretty much, my colleagues asked so many questions of you. And first, let me thank you for holding two hats right now. It's not easy, you know, covering especially Homeland Security as well as the veterans, which is very, very important. You know, there are a lot of issues that surround the Veterans Office that need to be addressed, and I think you're on the right track, Tim, what you're doing right now, going after grants. That's amazing. I mean, on the second day, and I greatly appreciate it. And Genevieve, thank you so much as well. You know, you're having to give him all the help and advice he needs, which Tim's a fast learner, so don't worry. You know, you'll be able to get to your work that you have to do, because I know this guy has it under cover. The other thing I'd like to ask before I let you go is, what kind of assistance do you give to those veterans who have to go off island for medical care, with regards to assisting them in a place to stay, the families that have to accompany them? Is there anything that you guys can do at your end on Guam to make it a little bit easier for those individuals having to go to Tripler?
Thank you for that question, Senator. And I appreciate the accolades that you've given me. I am humbled by that. From what we understand, it's a referral process, but in my mind, as discussed earlier about the amount of veterans that have to go to Hawaii to Tripler is astounding. So, and having some individuals end up homeless and not being able to survive on their own out there without any additional assistance. That is something that is duly noted for me, and I will look into it and see if there's some type of partnership that we can arrange with the state of Hawaii and whatever other state, maybe California, because I'm sure some veterans go to California, to see what type of referral process on the back end there to support our veterans that are within their state and availing themselves to those medical services. So that's something I do not have the answer for today.
Okay.
I'll be sure to research it and get back to you. And it will be something that will be on our priority list in this fiscal year.
I greatly appreciate that, Tim. The reason why I bring this up is that my sister has been at Tripler Hospital for over 17 years. She's been there. And anytime we have our local veterans go to Tripler, my sister makes a point to stop by their room and to see if there's anything they can do or need, or the family to help for assistance. So she has some suggestions, you know, and options, but of course it's going to be helpful, to back it up. So please, yes, you have my number, my personal number, Tim. So if there's any way we can help our individuals who are sent away because of the lack of the hospital here to assist them, greatly appreciate it, because in their most vulnerable time, you know, that this is really needed for them. I mean, there are many hardships that our veterans have, so when they're away from home, it just escalates to even more so of a hardship. So I appreciate it. Look into it. You're going to do a great job. I know you are, you know, and I'm sure there's much more that you can offer to the veterans.
Silver lining, is there silver lining at the end of the rainbow?
Is that my good one, Tim?
I will look into it, Senator, and
Thank
actually
you.
that's a great idea, and I would appreciate it if you can send me with some of those recommendations from your sister. And my prayers go out to her, and man, I just can't believe it's 17 years. It's
Yeah.
really unfortunate, but
She
I'll
knows
keep her in
many.
our prayers.
Yeah, she knows many of the veterans that go out there, and she visits them. Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Senator Tello. Senator Therese Terlai.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Thank you to Mr. Uggan and Genevieve for your presentation. I appreciate it. So, Tim, can I just ask, is this your exclusive assignment at this point? Veterans Affairs Office?
No, ma'am.
Okay, so you're still at Homeland?
Yes, ma'am.
All right, just wanted to clarify that. Maybe that's good, huh? I hope so. So we talked a lot about the registry, and I remember in the last term, that was one of the things that we learned was all the different numbers of estimates of veterans that we had. There was an estimate from, a census that said 8,000. That was a 2010 census, right? 8,000 veterans. The U.S. Veterans Office in 2016 indicated about 9,900 veterans were using its services. Now that's, I think, a subset of all the veterans on Guam. The homeless veterans count in 2015 counted 11,000. The Guam Veterans Office at that time told us they estimated 24,000 at least, because they had come up with that number in 2014 based on those physical files that you had in your office. And so that is what you've been inputting for the last couple years now. And so I'm very glad to hear that you said it's 100% inputted, right?
Yeah.
That's what you mean by 100% complete. And then we were supposed to try to add on to that by going out, keep it current. Right now, that's an online, veterans can go on there and register online, which is excellent, and I just hope they all know about it. Yeah, so that's an added benefit. And then we had asked that the Department of Motor Vehicles transmit veterans lists, right, to your agency so that those can be updated every year, and that they can continue to keep asking, and of course it's voluntary, to ask people coming in for driver's license, are you a veteran, right? And would you like us to send your information over? And so that hooks you up. That's also supposed to happen at the mayors when they go in for residency proof of residency in a village, that the mayors offices can also ask, are you a veteran? Can we submit your information to the Veterans Affairs Office? So as opposed to you guys with your very small staff at the time going out to, collect. They were doing it. They were doing a lot, but they were trying to go out through fairs and festivals and every other outreach program. They would tag along, and it's a good idea to keep doing that. And we've been having, some particular veterans events, but still, I would say our numbers are still very underestimated.
Well, I do believe with the support of our new acting director, and we can maybe hire additional staff that can, assist with, the veterans, the outreach. Again,
That's good.
I really feel that, what he was saying, that we need to really maintain the data consistently.
Yes.
And we need a custodian, and we also, we need a classified employee that's going to be there, that's going to be consistent in,
Right.
And so I think that'll help with his, with our new acting director, which is really doing a great job for just the past 2 days. So, I'm very confident that something good is going to happen.
If I may, Senator, one of the things regarding the registry and the outreach, I definitely believe that not all veterans are capable or able to have access to the online capability, right?
Of course.
So in my mind, one of the programs that I'd like to integrate into the outreach program is as an example, this weekend's function that's happening down at Epal Beach for the veterans celebrating the 4th of July, that we provide outreach with individuals down there for registration. That will be another avenue of us to figure out, are you registered? You know, have you applied for benefits? You can do so now. We can get you registered right now, and we can set you up with a VSR in the following days. That would be one additional avenue to help us get current with the numbers of the total veterans on Guam. That's just one of the ideas that I have in my mind to interject to help us with that
Good.
capability.
Yeah, the other bill that was passed, I believe, is this, all the government agencies were supposed to ask first of all, their employees, start with them, their employees' families, if there's any veterans that, are in their agency or that they know of in their agency that they can also invite to add on. And the goal of all of that was to show the real number of veterans, and the more we can do that, and the more convincing we can be about it, supposedly that's going to be what gets us this hospital that we need, and that type of thing. And I think that's why when the secretary came, they talked a lot about regional, maybe joining with the region, that would give us a bigger population. But regardless of whether we do that or we don't, just to get our population accurate, so we can be very confident when we advocate for the needs of Guam based on the numbers that we see. And I'm very happy to hear about the 4 VSR?
Yeah.
VSR
Yeah.
officers or employees that you're going to be hiring. That's excellent news, long overdue. I'm so glad. Yeah, we have been relying on these organizations, the nonprofits, to do it themselves. And I know that they have done this, especially the Purple Heart organization. They had their own person
Registry,
who
yes.
could do that. And so this is great. And I hope that you'll be able to really get the different organizations to work together. Even the organizations tell me that, their challenge is that, of course, people in these organizations, they're the veterans that are willing to be active. But there's so many that that even they are not able to reach. And the more true benefits we can give to them through this office, such as application for benefits, re-looking at what they have and seeing if we can update that, and if they qualify for something based on changes that have been made over the years, that hopefully will help. And then the cemetery. So you said that the cemetery is that the land itself is under the control of Parks and Rec. Is that what you said earlier?
No, well,
What is under the control of Parks and Rec?
I think the East
The
Agania.
East Agania
The
Cemetery,
East
ma'am.
Agania.
It's in
Oh,
transition,
okay.
so I didn't have the true answer for that. So what I need to do is get the details of what is transpired and what is the way forward.
Okay.
From-
Okay, so good, because I was going to say that's the first
Yeah,
time I've heard
yeah,
that, but all right. I remember we were I've seen plans that they were trying to expand the current veteran cemetery in PD.
Yes, that's down the line. Like I mentioned earlier, the numbers, I think we have less than 100 plots left,
Right.
or crypts.
So they have worked on that. I know that, and that expansion.
Yes,
So I hope, we don't have to reinvent the wheel there, but
Yes.
just that whatever needs to get done.
Yes,
But
ma'am.
so I know they've talked about, the standard and how it should be, how it should look. Sometimes, when you go there and you do see improvements, that I want to say that. And so I want to thank whoever's working on this. And that just brings me to, again, can you just explain, so for the 12 employees that you have, if 4 of them are 4 will be VSR office, working on benefits, 4 are at the cemetery, they do everything?
Okay, this is what I foresee by the end of the fiscal year. If everything comes, is all completed, we'll have like 4 Guam veteran cemetery worker and 1 supervisor, all classified. Okay, and 4 veteran service rep, all classified. That's what I foresee by the end, by September 30.
All right, then that will leave you with 3 other employees. Is that?
Yeah, and then we have Evelina, who's a burial planner. She's doing a great job. She's a classified employee. And then we have Jervis. Jervis is...
Let's try not to use names, just identify the positions. I don't
Yes.
think they're
Okay,
asking for
okay.
names.
Yeah, I just want to know
okay.
what they're responsible for.
Yeah, and then we have the clerk, who's the LTA, that's assisting also with the, the registry program,
Okay. All right, yes.
the clerk typist.
and
then
you.
me as an administrative assistant.
All right. So it sounds like you're handling the finances part and the procurement and the registry.
Yeah,
and-
so I guess I'm glad you mentioned that. So it's all on air. So thank you.
Oh, I want to thank you.
Thank you.
All right. And so then I heard the question, but I think I'm confused about the answer. The contractual services, your budget went up a little bit for FY21, and that is looks like personnel, right? And as the chair said, it looks like it's just benefits, yes. But the contractual services looks like it went down by about 5,000. The equipment went down just a little bit, maybe
Well-
about 500, and then the capital outlay went down about 26,000. So Tim, how are you going to fix the chapel? What, you said you were going to work on the chapel at the Veterans Cemetery, is that right?
Yes, so DPW recently, as recent as yesterday, I requested for the assessment. So once we get the numbers on that, then I'll have to sit down with BBMR to see how we can fund that to have those CIP projects completed for the, and I understand that there's some funding left in FY2020 that we might be able to, use before it lapses to address those CIP projects.
Great.
Yeah, it's, I'm not going to say it's minimal, but we need to take advantage of the funding that is sitting right now to use to improve the chapel and the facility that's down there.
Yes, I'm glad you described the rain, the issues that occur there when it's raining.
Yes,
It's
yes,
serious, yes. All right. I wanted to ask, do you have a request for a new vehicle here?
Well, yes. Yeah.
So also in my visit down to the cemetery, the team down there identified one of the vehicles that need to be surveyed. So that would be the reason for the
Replacement?
Yes, the
For
replacement.
cemetery purposes,
Yes,
pretty much?
yes.
Good. Okay, good. What about the lease? Do you pay anything to Gura right now for where you are?
Hey, what?
Do you pay anything for where you are right
No.
now? Nothing?
No.
Okay. But
We're
are
not.
you going to be paying when you move down to Agana?
The Hessler's building is owned by the government of Guam. No, we're not going to be paying rent.
Okay, because some of the other agencies came in here and said that they are going to be charged.
To my knowledge, the answer is no.
Okay, good. I hope that
Unless
sticks.
there's a surprise waiting for me after this public hearing.
Well, that's great. Then that won't impact your budget, and we all
Because if
plus.
we are, it's not budgeted.
Yeah,
Okay,
it's not.
okay,
Right.
great.
So if
Okay.
at the end of the day today, they tell me that, Tim, you misspoke, then we'll be asking for more money to supplement that and address that cost.
All right. And one more thing. Oh, yeah, someone mentioned the Minority Veterans Affairs, in the federal system. They have and I know that Bill Cundiff is, he was appointed, I think, by the president to be part of this Veterans Affair, the Council on Minority Veterans Affair. I think I got the name right. If not, it's a commission. But I'll send you the info. But yeah, please contact him because he's got an excellent opportunity to advocate for Guam veterans, and he has been there already. I know he attended meetings in DC in this regard. So it's the first time somebody from Guam's been on this council. And I guess I wanted to ask, did you ever, or I know you're new, so I don't know, has your agency submitted anything when the veterans were being denied access to the base during the COVID period?
I think it's something that the Veteran Service Rep probably could answer, but I don't have that answer right now for that.
Sorry, I couldn't hear you.
I don't have the answer for that question
Oh,
right now.
okay.
It's usually, I do the admin and financial
Yes.
of the Guam Veterans Affairs. So anything pertaining to the, the benefits or requests from, it's really the VSRs, the 3 VSRs that, they communicate with. So I'm not, sorry, I don't have that
All
answer right now.
Yeah, I'm asking just because, veterans bring these issues up to our offices, right? And they want action, and I would just like to see that we're all united in it. If your office is the representative for the veterans, it should lead, and immediately should see what the commission, the Veterans Commission says, all the veterans organizations, and, hopefully we can be united always when it comes to veterans. That's what I'm hoping. But,
That is the plan, Senator,
all right, great.
for as long as I'm there.
Good. Good to hear. And I'm glad to hear that you're going to prioritize the hospital and PTSD issues, those types of things. Very, very important right now. All right, so I want to thank you again for your work on behalf of the veterans and your dedication and the progress that you've actually made. And I know there's a lot more that needs to be done, but let's get it done. Then thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you, Senator Therese. Madam Speaker, you had one follow-up, and I know that Madam Vice Speaker had one follow-up, and then we can close this budget hearing. Thank you. Madam Speaker?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. In your budget, scheduling, there was a request for 6,223 for other contracts for Schedule B, yet the unit pricing shows 0. And I just wanted a clarification because also in Schedule D for equipment, under the engraver, there was a request for an additional 525, and yet the quantity items shows 0. I just wanted to make sure that if we're looking at the amounts and the pricing, that it's in order. Maybe you can explain both of that, Janadine? There's a unit price on Schedule B for $12,942, yet the quantity's 0. And then for the engraver for GVC, you also have the quantity as 0. I'm hoping is it a typo?
I think I think it's my typo. I do know that we do need the engraver. The engraver it's to ensure that, the veterans that are there, they passed and they're inside the casket. We have to make sure that we have the name.
Right.
That was the purpose of that. In fact, that was one of the findings from the federal when they came and did an inspection in 2018, that within 3 years, we need to purchase and correct that.
Yeah. So I don't have a problem with it. I just want to make sure
Yeah,
that...
I think it's my typo. I think, I'm sorry. I think
So there is the need for the engraver?
There's an urgent need.
And then also for other contracts on Schedule B, you have the quantity is 0, yet the request is there for funding. Just wanted to make sure.
Okay, I think I'm looking in the wrong, okay.
I support the efforts. Maybe we can
Okay,
further...
well, we're requesting 6,000. Are we looking at 6,223 on FY 2020? Okay, so we're looking at it. Okay, and FY, it went down, requesting, because most of the, again, we, because of the you know, the increased staffing. I know that we have to, you know, shuffle the numbers to ensure that we're in compliance with the budget, and I know most of it is going to the salary. And again, we're prioritizing by needs. One of the things that we really need right now is the basic, like the Xerox contract. You know, we're going, you know, just to ensure that operation it doesn't stop. So we go with the priorities, which is the Xerox, Xerox Corporation, and also the water delivery, you know, the basics, and then we have to have, you know, there's a contract we have that we have to pay for, you know, like IT or something like that we need to, you know, with GSA. There's a GSA, every time we use the AS 400, there's a contract, I believe, that we have to pay that every year. So we're actually, the reason why it went down, which is because of the more warm bodies we have, we're cutting down cost. You know, we're trying just to go by the needs right now. So that's why it went down, you know, but again, you know, if we can get more funding, and, you know, we welcome it, you know.
I just want to make sure that you're afforded the opportunity to get what you asked for and not plug it in as like not needed anymore. And then maybe the last one, like I said, I support the veterans. I just want to make sure that, and we're looking at the numbers, and as we go through this, is sure that we're not, the amounts that were requested for 2021 on the utilities section, it's a request for 59,000, but yet that's 59,000 that was utilized for the old building. And when you move in, what is the anticipation of you moving into the Hessler building, the Hessler address?
Mr. Speaker, so just for clarification, that's something that I am currently researching right now. I'm not sure what the arrangements are over, I haven't not had the conversation to figure out what the arrangements are in regards to utilities. That's something I wanted to find out, because when I did the walk over there this past week, I did not see any additional hookups for Department of Labor or DICID or the other offices that were almost ready for occupancy. So that's one of the questions that I myself have, because we need to find out, you know, what cost is that going to be in comparison to what we currently use. So there might be an adjustment down the road regarding the cost of the utilities, dependent on what the arrangements are at the new facility.
So, Mr. Tim, if I may, just based on that and the request that you're looking also, because I know that if there's going to be 6 agencies in there, there could be a proration, and then, of course, through conservation and making sure that you guys work with energy-saving equipment and all that, that these numbers could really go down, and,
Yes.
And that utilization of resources can be plugged into another category in your budget. So just wanting to make sure that you, because that looks large right now, that's probably, you had the 2-story building in Aston, and if you moved in, that, you know, I think with 6 different agencies, that could be prorated.
Yes, ma'am. I'm tracking that, and once we have that evaluation, then we will act accordingly on the JVing of the money to another account.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, for giving me
Thank
the
you.
opportunity to do the follow-up.
Thank you. And Tim, pre-pandemic budget, understood, it's a pre-pandemic budget. You make the adjustment, we'll probably pass a lump sum budget, and you guys figure it out. Make sure, as long as our veterans are being taken care of, that's the key. Madam Vice Speaker, you have the last question, and we'll close.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Just real quick, can I get the cost breakdown for the VSR? That is the travel, the per diem, and the cost of the training?
Okay. Oh, I think I have that.
Do you, okay, so if you don't, do you have it on you?
I have it on.
Okay, thank you.
All right, you're going to provide it? Or is she going to provide that to you, Madam Vice Speaker?
Jen, do you want to provide it to me after the hearing?
Can I provide it to you?
Oh,
You
okay,
know,
so
our
can you
copy?
just
That's
send
what
us
I
an
thought.
email?
Yeah.
And also CC the chair, the OFB chair, and the oversight chair for the Veteran Affairs?
Sure.
So my email is senatortcnelson@guamlegislature.org.
Okay, I have it.
Thank
already.
you.
Yes.
Thank you,
I've
gentlemen.
been communicating.
Thank
with
you,
myself.
Mr.
I'll
Director, and
just
thank you,
forward
Mr.
it.
Chair.
All right. And thank you, colleagues, because we have a virtual at 5 o'clock. We got 6 minutes, 7 minutes to close this. Thank you, colleagues, for all your questions. The committee will conclude this budget hearing. Reference to the Guam Veterans Affairs. Please address your written testimony to the Committee on General Government Operations, Appropriation, and Housing, and submit it via email to Senator Joe S. San Augustine at gmail.com. Tzitzis Masi for your attendance and participating in today's hearing. And for those at home, thank you for watching. The budget hearing on Bill 282-35 LS relative to the Guam Veterans Affairs is now adjourned. It is now 4:54. Thank you. Enjoy your weekend. Happy 4th of July.